Very good gamers, how are we? This is Games and Chill, and today we are in a new video with a format that you are liking very much during these days, with a theme at par or more important than the tier list. Or the characters that are worth uploading to the 90, which is the video of the best talents of all Genshin Impact. As always, quick explanation, and we're going to try to fly because there are many characters, and luckily the talents, I think, require less explanation than previous videos, such as tier list of characters, such as tier list of target teams, or like what. Characters are worth going up to 90 because many of them already know them, as for example, Fischl or Albedo, that only require, as you see here, a talent and a crown, and all its source of damage is only one of the 3 talents from top to bottom is important. I mean, god talents who can literally change an account for you forever, the characters that go triple crown. Characters that need double crown because a talent is not used, characters that only with one is more than enough cases. Rare, where I'll really explain to you what the difference is, or if maybe it would depend on some constellation, or something very punctual, and also the importance goes from left to right, i.e. if the character is placed more to the left will be much more important than a character who is extremely right, for example. On the single crown, surely at the end of the whole, put Junji no Alandace his buff or normal attacks, but I will explain. The case that Junji doesn't really play much talent is played at 8 or 9, and you don't wear crowns because it's not a character very favorite nor loved by anyone, but hypothetically, if you wanted to bring his function and his team to the top, Junji should bring a crown, but since it is not used and does not really contribute, and it is not best in slot of any team, as I will put it in only one but. So that said this, before seeing the tier, let me in the comments, what do you think is the most useful talent of all Genshin Impact, and which would be the most useless of all Genshin Impact? That surely here is a tier, not where I will leave the characters that I will literally never recommend crowning because it won't do any good. And now you do while writing the comment. Let's go with the list of talents, which are the most important talents of the whole game. Well, small and macro spoiler, if you look down here, are all the characters sorted in the same order as the list of characters of Genshin Impact, where Fiorina is above all, and Aloy below all this. I have done so that I can also carry an order in this video and make it much more comfortable to watch for you, especially for the people who have seen the team list. Go and is like an order from better to worse character, literally from Genshin Impact according to the role, using the rotating damage of your equipment and your roof, or potential damage with weapon and C2. So let's put it now. Into Aloy, we're going to start at the lowest, and we're going to see what happens to him, as Aloy is really going to get somewhere and go. Isn't Aloy a carry who has a good nuke with the ulti? His elementary ability is not important, and his normal attacks. When you play the carry because they get stuffed with cryo, but it's bugged, I'll leave it in no, and I'm not going to climb it Dori more than the same thing. Dori is a character who follows a very similar approach to Cookies, and it's just that, let's say that she's healer. Cure with the ulti regenerates energy also with the ulti. Its ulti cures well to talent 7 or 8, and if you want to take it to Hyper Bloom. Triple Mastery doing the role of Cookie, who is going to do it, but it is not what will do. The same talents should not rise. Dori's staying here. There's no crown, and Cookie's an explanation, since it would be nice to comment on his elementary skill. The more you raise it, the more it heals you, but the heating it has is decent, and you won't crown it just to heal because it doesn't cure either. A barbarity with which Cookie as well as Dori in Judgment stays here without moving because it is not worth crowning. No way Sanyan, in case someone tries to play it, does need to crown the ulti to maximize its damage, but he'll be down at all with Yunjin and so on. Let's remember that I said in the last tier list that both the Traveler is here as the Traveler represents the Traveler Dendro, and the Traveler represents the rest of the Travelers. They're useless, so the rest of the Travelers who are useless don't crown Amber. If you want to do the Amber nuke on the team, where it does very good damage with the Baron Bunny, then crown the Baron Bunny, but no. I would recommend it, or I'm going to upload it Freeman. Most of its damage is reflected in its elementary ability, but it also puts in. 3-minute damage, that is the Euro Small, should basically crown his elementary ability, but is so little dependent. And it's true that his damage is also distributed in his ulti and normal, that I'm not going to put him in tier crown unlike Sinyan, because Sinyan does depend entirely on the damage of his ulti, and it's the only thing that's going to be worth the characters and 3 minutes worth, as a minimum balance at the end, even if all the damage is in its elementary ability. and would be closer to the amber, and the rest of it is that I will not recommend either going up or spending Chi-Chi crowns. More of the same is healer. His elementary ability heals, his ulti does good damage, just like Yunjin. Now yes, Yunjin above is Xinyan because support is a crown in his ulti. That is reflected the escalation of additional damage to attack. But come on, you don't need Zishuain, you don't need to. Cure with the elemental, that's the bubble. With the ulti it hurts if you have the C4 that can be carry because you might want to crown the ulti to be good carry. No case. Zishuain doesn't climb Ningguang. Ningguang is a carry whose damage is in his ulti and in his normal attack, and the loaded D. It's your normal attack with the passive sheiks your elementary ability, which is the screen you don't need with which if you want it. It would be a hypothetical double crown, but because it's so low and so disused, I'm not going to include it in doubles. Crowns, because there are many other characters who with double crown do wonders, so Ningguang down here, Xionggyun. More of the same it's strong is when you play in reverse melts of carry and normal attack and ulti because it is a nuke in there. Some teams like sub DPS as it is in their ulti, which is nuke, but their normal attacks would not be used as support, and their weak elementary skill just put it in the field and reduce the cooldown of the team, and would not recommend crowning Xionggyun ult and Yu. Because just as with the Chi-X, I think it's 4 or 5 Chuzos that can melt all at once, even if the enemy is affected by Pyro but does not have a devastating potential, is not an incredible damage, is not the greatest damage of the rotation of the team, is not the team. More damage from anyone literally, so Xionggyun stays around Lisa, Hyperloom criterion, if she goes triple mastery too. Exploring as Dory and Kuki don't matter if you go as sub DPS, I explained in Lisa's normal tier list that Lisa at the end. What rents is the application of Electro with its ulti and the decrease of defense to the enemies that are affected by the damage of the ulti, not the damage itself of Lisa, with which Lisa does not need to crown Candace, as Candace below is Youngyun and Candace's same function. If you want to carry a team with buffo of normal attacks too, Sky with Hydro Consonance for example in a new Morlani team that might be given in 5 as capable. Candace crown being support maximizes that bonus damage to normal attacks, and being support could become worthwhile. Because his entire function falls on that talent, but it will be very low on just one, almost to the point of wanting to discard it. Final score with Candace, and it's that if you wanted to play carry that has a very good team, you know, I could go with a crown, but in normal attacks because its load is the one that can do the most damage. That is 10-8, 8 or 10-7, 7 or something like that. In any case, a crown and counting its support roll very well down. Where are we going? Over here, Zetos. Zetos is carrying, his main source of damage normal attacks is in his attack. Normal. It's loaded and then the ulti gives you an extra bonus of attacks loaded also of mastery. I mean, I could go in double crown way down being carry, but these carries so ifs we're seeing we're not going either. Noelle uses her elementary ability to have more shield. Her normal attacks, which is her main source of damage being carried, and its ulti has a multiplier that transforms the defense into attack. So easy, along with his chicks. Then basically Noelle would render crown as a carry in normal attacks mainly. And its ulti doesn't give you so much scaling, and it depends on the chicks to maximize turning defense into attack. I'd go this way because it's your main source, or I'd go out on the subject of the other carries we're seeing that you don't have a Haitsu to Haitsu if he would say that you could put a crown on him. Because it has an elementary ability that you can pull twice by rotation with cooldown of 10 seconds. If you play Faruzan Fiorina C2 Bennett's team, you can punch 2 times 500,000 and it's their main source of damage with much difference from the normal ones and with respect to the ulti. But the ulti is not bad, but his punch is his source. So I'd go this way in Xinyan's role. We've already been through it, with which now I'm going to position everyone, because in the end everyone has a small role except Thi. That really being supports doesn't need to crown, that happens with much. Yanfei. Yanfei's maximum damage is the loaded ones. If you want to play Yanfei, Yanfei would go this way as a carry down or even around here, because Yanfei in the end has a pretty good potential, even though there are many more carries. Pyro. They crown normal attacks for the loader. Razor does not need your physical equipment, nor will I recommend it, because it is better feminine. Paying 4 stars and the Hyperbloom team more than repeat. Bennett Shix to Emburst Pyro. Nahida Xingqiu Razor doesn't need to raise talents because it's a Masters team. Barbara, the same talents 177, you heal enough. Barbara doesn't need to crown. Kaeya, more of the same, is a kind of sub-DPS where I will include Kaeya in the category along with Baidu, Rosaria, and another character where her main source of damage is her ulti. But it is a sub-DPS that will not normally be the character, that it does more damage in the rotation with which it would not be necessary to crown its ulti to maximize the damage. Hold the ulti to 8 and play 168 is enough. Layla, we could put it as support, because if someone really wants to get to the maximum of Layla's shield, the shield scaling is reflected in its elementary ability with which as support. Layla could come this way, it's not anything from the other world either, but it's kind of curious like Zhongli who actually is. And Zhongli the same thing, Layla and Zhongli is the same thing, his shield is in his skill. Elemental, you want an incredible shield because you crown the elementary skill and are the two best shields of the game today. What else, Kirara? Kirara, the same thing about the shield, but Kirara's shield is a little worse, I won't include it. Really, your elementary ability also has the scales of the Endro taps, but good. Kahina is a kind of Kirara in fact, a Geo that may still leave as a small source of Geo doing. Hits with the drill, but I don't think he has an incredible performance, let alone any of his talents change at all. Diona more of the same, good shield, the ulti does a little damage and cure, but I don't think anything is worth beyond talent 8 with crown. Charlotte, her healing is in her ultimate, which is very strong, and its elementary ability leaves a sort of elementary ability of Enegida in enemies, but with Krill, I wouldn't say it was worth it either because like Jin, that Chi-Chi and other talent healer characters 8 already cure you, or 6 even talent 6 leave you overheating all over the team, so Charlotte wouldn't really put it around here. Soma's on a criterion as Chi-Chi? Really, to play at Crepitar does not need to raise his talents, plus Crepitar goes to triple. Mastery, with which does not enhance his life, which is with which he climbs the shield, and if you want to play it as a pure shield, then you can boost your elementary ability to scale one of the shields, and your ulti will reset the shield, but it wouldn't deserve. Deya, if you want to play carry, you can put Crown in her ulti, but it's only 4 seconds and for the rest of the teams. Sometimes you don't throw the ulti and still elemental, the scaled damage it has is not very strong and is used more to crack. That has more function of mastery than of raising talent, so that Dehaya, nothing at all who likes Dehaya very much. So that Mona would put her in a crown around here as her ulti Maxarla, even with the ulti of 3 that you give the ulti, plus 3 to 13 max the bonus of damage that the enemies affected by your ulti receive, i.e. more you take to heaven. Mona's ulti more damage and quite receive enemies within 5 seconds of Loman duration, or if they are frozen. As long as they're frozen, with which Mona's ulti as buffer or as equipment support if it's important. And I'd put it around here more or less, and luckily, and in fact I happen to realize that the characters match. From worst to best in the game, to more worth raising your talents. Next to Shenhe. Shenhe is a little bit of a pain in the ass, so to speak. His elementary ability, if the Maxius just max out the damage of the elemental ability itself. Not the issue of loads if the attack by Sensual wins with the loads, but it is not the most important thing of Shenhe, and that is why not. It takes triple attack when Shenhe's Raren is announced. We'll talk about it again. We'll explain it to everyone. If you have it C2, its ulti as sub-DPS becomes one of the strongest sub-DPS of the game, along with that of Yelani. Along with that of Xiangling and Furina as sub-DPS, talking only about damage, with which technically Shenhe, if it were C2, that. You have the cone max the loads, and you have the full uptime of your ulti 1820, because if you don't have only 1220 because your ulti, you give 6 seconds, plus the C2 gives you 6 seconds. Technically, Shenhe could be to optimal conditions a very powerful double Crowno. But, the permafrost, you know what we talked about in other videos, have taken it a little out of their own use, and I don't talk about Noivilet's permafrost that everyone uses with Charlotte speaks of the pure permafrost of perhaps Ayaka Gangju, the permafrost of Ipe. That I'll put it in case weird because of the issue of depending on the C2. And that many people will play it Chero, basically next Yo-Ya-Da. No need is not important, Jin. No matter, no need is not important. Jin 117, level 80 or level 70 even already. You leave full life the entire team Eula. A crown the ulti, plus the damage Eula can have is extremely important. And very powerful. It is true that the chain makes normal attacks, but the ulti is the most important thing of Eula Yoimiya, its attack. We'll put her next to Yanfei here, or I'll think of her normal attacks as carrying her main source of all. Hurt and many of you Yoimiya. 10-7-7 or something, or 10-7-5. And the ulti don't raise it much. Keiching for the main Keiching that you see their main source of damage. The 15-second rotation teams with aggravation, or with Sarah. Cheeks Katsuha, Bennett means the hyper carry, as it is such a fast rotation of 15 seconds and fluid only with maxing the ult and maximizes damage because in the correct rotation of the aggravation equipment and Keiching, hyper carry you barely give time to do. 1 or 2 loaded of their normal load rotation for the main Keiching, and those who play without much time remembering the P. Typical is always from Keiching making a normal a load that looks pretty showy and pretty nice, because that's not what. Realistic is not played like that, and really Keiching could wear a crown in his ulti, as the main teams who want it. To take to heaven where we were here, Jin Kole is not necessary as a sub-DPS with criteria of sub-DPS as it is. Explain with Kaya, with Bio, with Rosaria. It is not going to be that more damage does by rotation does not do good its main source. She's in her ulti and her ulti wants her only to apply so you don't need her in crowns. Lynetta doesn't have a very high damage. She's more of an Anemo support that buffas the attack, puts green shadow, and generates energy for the team. Won't change nothing because you crown nothing. His most important talent would be his ulti for the damage he can develop. Since if you play it in a monkey of skirmish with Faruzan, Chicks, and Bennett can do interesting hits, but I won't say I deserve the vote. 20 for nothing is worth 20 to this day together. And together badly, it is true that you have a good damage in Thea. Ulti against certain equipment, but literal. There hasn't been any room where, oh, that goes well, 20th floor 12, and that really changes you. Playability 20 to this day, 188 of his work. Very well, there is no need Mika crowns. Neither Mika crowns is. As something similar to Chevreuse or even Kuki in the sense of its offensive support of many dedicated support equipment. Plus its ulti doesn't hurt and its elemental is the one that gives you attack speed with, which if you want to max the speed, attack that Mika Uila gives you, you can crown her. But by losing 3% attack, speed leave her at 8 or 9, nothing happens. Because it won't change the Eula gameplay, especially because the maximum damage of Eula doesn't depend on 3% speed with Mika. Depends on the cheeks of Eula for random loads it gives you, so Mika discards or fits it has a scaled in its ulting. If I remember correctly, if in your ulti it is the bonus or in your elemental, it is not in your ulti that is the bonus inflicted extra damage. That is the bonus of whoever wants to play the Bloom team of fit and low. Because the truth is that not all generates them. Either he or not all exploits them, he and don't benefit you without all the blooms of that damage bonus, plus then Tail C4 has another bonus extra damage to the blooms so you can play to fit 118, and it's too much, but you know that his ulti has that scale. Which is the most important thing you don't need at all. A sufficient 88 Faruzan has a damage bonus Anemo and a descent scaling. Of resistances in its ultimate that if it enhances its ultimate, it enhances this bonus damage Anemo. So, if you want to take the gut, Sky to Escaramoix could have crown in the ulti just as, for example, Mika could have crown its elemental by speed. And bring Faruzan to heaven, so that he with the ulti, but really, with the ulti to 8 to 9, there is no need Sarah. Yes, he has a base attack bonus scaling that's going to give Raiden on the hyper carry that works exactly the same as Bennett's. Not just because by giving base attack the base attack is multiplied by the percentage, and then all that total base attack more. The percentage that Raiden has earned extra, that means that he has one Sarah that he will share with Raiden, can add up to almost 700 UA, 800 attack with his elementary skill. All that then it's like a total Raiden attack that will arrive in the field as 3000 and it peaks almost 4000. And that attack is what is going to multiply by the talent of Raiden's ulti to make the cut with the other additional Bufos Kazuha's Bufo with green shadow and more things with the sheets of Sara etc. Because I explained this. Because crowning the ulti of Sarah is going to give you a spectacular extra damage to Raiden. We talked about maybe almost 100,000, plus 120,000 more damage. We talked about a cut that can reach the million quietly, or more than a million according to how well built that they have the characters and all this, if you combine it with the celestial wings of high base attack for much more yet. That Sarah, if it is a character that I will recommend, I will actually put it around here, and it will be worth crowning his elementary ability to bring Raiden to heaven if you want to do much more damage, and if you end up translating into much additional damage Chevreuse. Chevreuse doesn't need the same criteria as Cookie's elementary ability. You could max it out to cure it around there. His ulti does a lot of damage, but his equipment is ulti elementary patilla, and the damage does the rest of the team, so Chevreuse do not need to crown Rosaria criteria of Kaya Baidu in the sub DPS. Your ulta is interesting, but will never be the character. It's more than enough because she finally wants me to apply cryo to do a little damage outside the field in permafrost. In reverse melts, but it's not going to be the character that does the most damage by rotation, so that's Rosaria stays out. Yay Miko is worth a crown, especially in teams where it hurts most of the aggravation overload. Of gross damage electron to a class of mono electro is already very powerful. Its elementary ability is quite strong as its source. Mains all crown their elementary ability, their ulti. Many people neither throw it at the cost of energy. Gunyu a crown. Nothing more in its ultimate if you play permafrost well in its loads. If you play inverted melts, many people will say. Not because according to what equipment the other horn serves you in permafrost, you do not use loaded and melted in reverse. You don't use the ulti, with which more would be a crown, or it would be a rare case. In fact, maybe if someone watches the video at the end, and he doesn't understand, and he sees here the list of rare cases, he's going to go back to looking for Ganyu to say, okay, because it's a rare case, but Ganyu, I should go a crown over here next. We're going in half. It's interesting. I don't know how much to take to the video. Half riotously already sees, and I don't know why riotously. Basically his ulti has quite good damage to his elementary ability. It's just like Scaramouche's, that basically what it does is give you a bonus normal attacks just like the elemental of volume. Scaramouche and its main source of damage are its normal and even more charged with the cone, which I would say would put it around here next to Uila, a little bit above, as it is not a support like Sarah, but it is its main source crown normal attacks. Its elemental and its ulti do not need and priority its ulti above its elemental. An example 10-6-8 Scaramouche itself, exactly. Zaime explanation that Ryothusly has a very powerful but less important ulti than normals has normal ones that deserve her. The penalty to be crowned that his main source normal and loaded Scaramouche, as well as Ryothusly and his elemental, is a bonus, which activates that gives you more damage from normal attack than is not so important because play against Scaramouche 10-6-8 or 10-7-8. You could play 1-1-10 and it wouldn't change practically anything your damage many games there. Triple crown here because you love the bay. You take your wifus to heaven and everything else. But you know that the main source of damage is here, is its ultimate. Zo the ulti albedo, its elemental ability, while it is already all its source of damage and is very good as sub DPS and as. Explain at first the video as example official more of the same thing is all its source of damage on elementary is only a talent. And it's a lot of damage official as sub DPS. Now explaining the topic of official could bring to Baidu with his ulti the damage of Baidu. It's also very high and Baidu could play 1-1-10, and it would also be super similar, but if we counted the joint damage in Fischl, it overcomes the multi-tar damage and Baidu overcomes it, but we depend on the C2 of Baidu for the extra dragons, but Baidu the function that has had many teams is less important, and does its function really 1-on-8 plus Fischl with the Golden Company 1. A gross attack barbarity of extra damage in his elementary skill, and Baidu with emblem also gains quite damage. Of the character, but at little inversion, also has smaller minimums than Fischl, with which I would say that Fischl will comment that it was worth raising her elemental, but Baidu not so much. In fact, Baidu criteria Rosar and so on, I will leave her here from. That you can play 1-1-8 and more than enough where we were here. Kiori, something similar albedo, the ulti of Kiori. It does a lot of damage, but Kiori is really albedo, where all his source of damage is into elementary ability and the ones. Kiori can get higher than albedo himself if we have constellations, so I put it up, I don't know if this way. Hiyori's problem is maybe it's too exclusive only came once, there hasn't been a lot of people who have thrown for it. Albedo has it in more Albedo accounts, you can play better and more comfortably without depending on the account in more teams I prefer. Albedo personally, I've explained it a lot, but well, I'd be on the pair maybe over here next couple, we have Liney. Liney has the loads that scale with his normal attack. Liney has his elementary ability that when you have all the loads, and you exploit it at the end of the combo, you throw away the elemental, and exploit the cats doing brutal damage like loaded attack damage. And Liney has the ulti that has a scale to 700% that can vaporize more, a rather strong initial scale. Also Liney. It's got all the damage spread out among the talents, and we'd say it could go triple crown, but very, very far down whoever likes it. Liney to get him to heaven so we could do it around here, but pretty short later, I got Diluc the best team. Now, I explained it is the team of descendings that you can play 1/6/6 calmly, and its main source of damage are the descending ones with Ixaeon. This also applies to Digia, but well, let not even put it. So if we count to that team where Diluc has to condemn the normals, well, maybe as a carry condemning the normals for the issue of Ba, down to maximize your damage you could go this way with Joe and Piss and Anfei, and in fact on par, because just these three carry Spyro need to condemn their normals for Ixaeon dependency. If you don't play Diluc with Ixaeon teams, maybe. His elementary ability, his ulti has more prominence. The melts of Diluc are not bad. The Dragon Strike of Diluc when there was no Xianyuan was still his best in slot, so good around here condemning the next normal attack we have to Klai. Klai, its main source of damage, its elementary ability, has many multi-hits, has a bug to activate the Witch and Weapon. Deye the Witch requires 3 times that you have the elemental to activate all 3 charges, but it's normal and charged, no. They are wrong, and their ulti is a source of damage that is doing their hits of damage also without realizing it, and then has the C4 of a Klai that makes an explosion also pretty strong. The reality is that I'd say that Chi didn't even move her from here because the same has enough damage, but you could play 9/9 without changing either usually your source of damage because when you play the bet. Klai team that explains it, other videos, the CLI C2. For the defense descent that is a C2 similar to the very powerful Energita. You play Fiorina C2 that gives you harm inflicted, you play Kazuha and Bennett. Really all that damage comes from this whole set of buffos and not of Klai's own climbing, so Klai can play 9/9 without crowns that he likes very much than the triple. Coroni, but Klai doesn't need cakes, his ulti makes a very interesting knock. His climbing of the Riptide, I don't remember how it was. In Spanish, the passive of marking enemies and hitting them with Hydro passively is with its elementary ability and the Riptide, the Arcs mode and the ulti of Arcs, so his normal attack is all badly distributed, so Tartaglia also does not need with Harness. Baidu isn't really tied up his main source, either his normals. If you want to take him from carry to field, you could bet for its normals or if it's chicks, but there's really not so much liability for damage, so there's 8 can be played quietly. 8. Good one, Forgiveness 1999, which is how I actually have it in my account, 1999 in the ulti, to do more harm, but it is not important. Travel the Traveler, its main source is in the ulti, but same criterion of the sub DPS, that all the damage does not depend on. They are to say the same criterion of Baidu Rosaria. Everything that has been explained does not need to crown the ulti of the Traveler, and you can play 118 and it does its function perfectly, and everything put in the comments, many you will certainly comment someone. Indeed list most important talent that has made Phil. This is not discarded, this, not this, not this, not the truth. It's that most are being this, not literally. But well, now we're filling up the lands ahead of you. Calmly that which yields it goes here in double crown is then played 110 for the amount of damage that it has and everything. And everything has a bull that you will throw twice by rotation that you can make almost 400,000 or 500,000 in condition. Optimally, you have normal and charged attacks that climb in a brutal way, and you have an ulti that ulti again relight. With Gordu's defense, Bufo with Witch and everything is a character that is worth the triple crown because it will maximize its damage in a spectacular way, and it is the one that receives all the damage bonuses from the whole team at the same time and everything besides. Let's put Xiao Jiaojia would say day before I would have put him in triple crown, but I would now put him in double crown because really your source of damage is in your normals and the descending that will be normal, and your ulti today, your elementary. If it's not cheeks, you don't need to crown it. If you have like this, your cheeks here in triple crown. But if not 10, 8, 10 or 10, 9, 10, and it's doing a lot harm with your elementary ability in order we follow Giza to Geyser, is a crown. Its elementary ability, its normals is not. His bad isn't bad, but his damage, in fact his ulti, not unless you have many constellations, doesn't make his ulti with the maximum. Ja, dies damage, but well, the case with Giza is because the ulti, as explained for whoever says it, is the Jades. And the ulti to Giza, basically the ulti to Giza, if the strips with 0 Jades do the minimum of damage, she would end up with 3 Jades. And you go out with those 3 Jades to maximize the damage in the field by doing normal attacks with Giza, is the current rotation, or is minimizes the damage of the ulti by throwing it at the beginning of the rotation so that it does the minimum damage, but when it leaves the ulti have 3 Jades to maximize the damage, the ulti would have the maximum damage if you threw the ulti when you had 3 Jades. It can be done with constellations, but no one plays it, so the Giza More today is a single crown in your beta. Tignari. If you want to take him as a carry, take him to heaven with the amount of gross damage he might have. It's double. Crown below Clorinde. Why? Because normal attacks mainly charged is half of its damage and its ulti is the other half of its damage. In addition to that, Tignari has a rotation of 12-second super frenetic strips very fast. But if we don't go with a crown around here to the park, to the guys, just like Raiden, in fact many people Raiden, then I know that you have Triple Crown League in the comments. Raiden Triple Crown for algorithm with basic normal attack. Of Raiden, who does not serve, also crowned many people. I think Raiden is the character of the whole community and antiquity I have. Playing that without impact is the character that the most uselessly Akanado people really normal attacks because they're not used, and because normal only works for when you're punching physical with the normal attack when your ulti is out. And that no one does. Nobody hits Raiden with the physical blow. They have it for love. I guess so, Raiden, and if not the same category, you can play 1-8-10 and all Raiden's damage climbing, and otherwise it's in your ulti. You don't really need to go up the elemental of Raiden. The elemental of Raiden is the wheel of ambition that you will also be harmed by the team's ultis and such, but mainly by playing 1-8-10, unlock the full potential of now Raiden, and if you want to take you to heaven because you like it very much, because we can already bring it to Triple Crown, but the reality is that it is not worth it, or 80-90% of the 2 characters is in their ulti Claran, of however their ulti is so powerful that, yes, it is worth putting in double crown. We follow for neither it, nor it is played 1-1 no crowns. Kokenmin. The same thing 1-8-8, the jellyfish of the good one, 8-1 in fact. Because 1-8, because the jellyfish is the one that cures, and the last one is necessary neither to potentiate. The 1-8-1 powering the jellyfish to cure, and point Navia is a crown. I will put here run her elementary skill. Big nook that you all like is a very important percentage of all the damage Navia. His ulti is not bad, his normal is not bad, but Navia 10-8 works perfectly, and neither double nor triple Quidditch and Moalani will really wait for me. Moalani would be with the normal ones, and Quidditch would be like 1-8-8. I don't know how much 1-10-10 would be the truth, but I'm good at it. Pu Tao Triple Crown. His ulti is a gigantic nook that you can make 300,000 and heal you besides. It is very important. Use it to heal you hurt, to leave the flower and make that nook that can give you rooms of the abyss, just when you lack a few seconds and finish to get out of the field. Also, its elementary ability is the one that transforms life into attack and more thee. You go up more attack you want for life, and your normals is your climb of the descending, and the loaded in your best in slot, with which Pu Tao today is one of the best triple crowns you can get or invest in all Genshin Impact, literally. After Hu Tao, we go already for Baiju. You can play 1-8-8 because cures very well, and no need Sucrose goes to triple mastery. And the talents don't even have to go up, and you can play 1-1 with Sucrose less than you've heard. Emily is a very good sub DPS, where your ulti will make a very interesting nook, but Emily already explained. It is an albedo of Dendro regarding teams of Burn and so on, but Emily would go this way next to albedo. In fact, as an albedo of Emily, Dendro is crowns her elementary ability. And ready, and it will come out within a little bit of gamine. Its maximum damage is in its elementary ability because it reflects the damage of the descending go. The elementary skill with which you could say it goes with a crown, but I would tell you that in its optimal equipment and its rotation, optimal indeed, almost 40% of the damage of the gamine, are there downs of controllable, i.e. those of the attacker. Normal is to say I personally, and you will see it in the will that came out recently with Furina at the end of the 4.7 we are. At the beginning of the 4.8 I would recommend double crowning to Gammon, and in fact by being so strong I would put it here next to Chlorine. I would recommend double crowning and playing it 10-10-8 or 10-10-6. The ulti is not important. The ulti is a single number and does not give you any climbing. Additional, you can play 10-10-6. And if you have this Wayne Young, whatever constellation would recommend crowning double to Gamine. Today Moalani, because in the normal but well here, we start with the strongest crowns of the game, Xiang Ling Xiang. Ling is a character that being out of the field on many teams is going to be the character that does the most damage to the whole team. So of course it's worth it, and it's one of the most important constellations of all that in. Without impact here, I could say. Maybe Raiden's ulti, who wants to make it to the million, but Raiden's theme is more for the million and for the Belenio having Zarachinix Raiden K3, Kazu Hazer 2, and Bennett Chicks. So Raiden is an example I could put around for someone to say, well, it's just that Xiang Ling, without having to have 80,000 things and 5 stars and so on, being able to play official team, which is 4 stars with no Xiang Ling Bennett, and that team give you all year to pass you any room of the abyss. Xiang Ling is worth crowning his ulti today, and is one of the most powerful crowns that can save us an account. The crown, the ulti of Ling Xiang here in Primordial. Directly, the ulti of Ling Xiang could be played 1/6 crown in the ulting. More if you already have the C5 and gives you the ulti +3. Not the C3 pardons of the ulti +3, so crown. Without that it does not do. Nis, without having good damage with the ulti, could be crowned if you like. But not much need, you can play 188 and go. Leftovers, because the Gelan damage will not change much if I recommend a crown in your ulti is one of the most powerful sub-DPS. Of the whole game, its individual damage with Cone Yakua has given for many abysses enough damage for only Yelan. The whole abyss can be passed only with Cone Yakua if friends only the individual damage of Yelan has been able to pass alone without equipment. The entire abyss for so many abysses back now are selling more and more life, and so on one of the sub. DPS if damage by rotation was the strongest field in the game and stronger crown of the game Yelan coming Kuki. I explained it. You can play 181, so that with that talent, the elemental cures more and ready Xianyun with his ulti cure more light. Bayuju can be played 118, and already with the ulti to a cure, so you do not need to crown Arlecchino. Arlecchino goes double crown, and it is the double crown. Double crown of the strongest of the game to see Arlecchino his natural normal crown would go in his normal attacks, which is his main source of damage. His ulti does not do so much damage, but does his not 200,000, 300,000 that, of course, if he has dismissed it seems. Big if it does Arlecchino, we all hope that Arlecchino would make 1,000,000 with the ulti. Although if it does with chicks and so on, Arlecchino could go double crown if you have it with constellations. If you don't have constellations, Arlecchino 1018 is enough. And here I stress with Arlecchino that his elementary ability, there are people who do not understand well how his elementary ability works. No need to raise it with having its elementary ability to level 1 unlock Arlecchino's maximum damage to its elementary ability. The only thing that needs to go up is for the own climbing of the hits that makes the elementary ability to pull that are very shorts. The hits are a couple of hits of 5,000, 6,000 or so compared to their normals of 150,000, more or less well-built eye. I get to see normal 500,000 Arlecchino, vaporized Arlecchino, just a crown with constellations. And the rest of it, not leaving his ulti, could go to double crown here strong, and since he wants to take her to heaven, then triple crown. I'd actually get to say it, being one of the most powerful carries in the game, would put it in God like its normal attack. Would be one of the strongest crowns of the game Neuvillette, the same as Arlecchino, but best 10-1-1 and Neuvillette will pass only Lai. There are no more questions, Your Honor. One of the most powerful crowns in the entire game. Neuvillette, Bennett, Attack, Pixio. Base for all the team that uses attack, what I am going to put down, because today, characters like Yelan like Forina as Neuvillette as Moalani in the future. And there's more characters of the Tran that climb with defense, or that climb with awe. Life, with which he has lost a little bit, but Bennett's crown is one of those who are going to change your game today, in fact. Keep putting it here below Neuvillette, here, not here perfect. Next, we have 3 Kazuha characters if you take it. Triple mastery recharges, and you are only going to make whirlwinds as you play it. 1-1-1-1, that is no matter the talents, the climbing. That you have very strong, there's a point that I explained to you, Kazuha strike. That is the point of the perfect Kazuha, with Kazuha Xifos. Because the Xifos compensates you all the recharge of Kazuha in 2 of the items you can seek mastery in main stat, taking a T. Triple mastery, but with its probability stats, so you can have a Kazuha with a balance in critical probability. Still carrying a triple mastery with 1,000 mastery sufficient recharge by the Xifos, and this would translate into that scaling. Kazuha is so absurdly powerful that Kazuha could go double or triple crown, because besides the descending when you have the cone that you make 2 elementals with which 2 descendings with Kazuha, and also the second elemental after Thi. If you do normal, you only have 5 seconds of cool. down you have 6 reflected, but then you reduce 20% by 15% something. So the cooldown when you have the cone, or your elementary ability, with which you have 5 seconds after another elemental. More with which you have 3 descendings per rotation with Kazuha, would recommend the triple crown because that descending of the 3 elementals is reflected in your normal attack. That is Kazuha to damage as sub-DPS is Garamouge or Kazuha Optimus Prime. That could be said with Ixifos and a proportion of 70-120. That can be reached and is a very incredible Kazuha would do some damage of another world and there could have triple crown, but the reality of Kazuha is that the normal that you all play of triple crown. Mastery you can play one by one, and it doesn't matter all the same for love. Many you have triple crowned Kazuha, this Nahida and Furina. Well, interesting dilemmas of Nahida. It was said that some talent, if it went up, would be harmed because the ticks of Electro. They were faster and it hurt the reactions. This is not. So this is quite Nahida could wear double crown if you like. A lot, because your elementary ability what's going to maximize is the damage of the elemental, as sub-DPS and as sub-DPS does a lot. Nahida damage and your ulti. What will maximize you maxing your own ulti is a with cone including the damage of your elementary ability. Because the ulti has 3 scaled the damage of your elementary ability, according to the amount of pyros that you take the time in the E. Make ticks according to the amount of electros you carry, and the duration of your maximum ultima, according to the amount of hydros you carry. When maxing the ultimaxias, these 3 scales how fast the ticks are generated according to the electros that you carry. That always will benefit more damage, more application. From within what lasts the ulti will always benefit you longer duration of the ulti in Wyattafia long bufo 250. Although if you do well and play well, you will always rotate again before. The ulti of Nahida with a cone and a hydro can last 25 seconds or more in the field and damage to your elementary ability. You're not going to play with pyros with Nahida normally, or if now that the goal of crackling arrives, but the fact is that with a single pyro, that would be the cone without taking pyros on the team, but the cone gives you a load of the pyro, does more damage with your elementary ability. Then whoever wants to take the sky to Nahida could wear a double crown being a very powerful Archont. If it changes a lot. Nahida's damage both damage your elementary ability and your elementary ability, and these ultis boobies crown it. No Nahida 109 or 188 his work does it well, and it is not determining everything else so, Nahida, I explain it to you. But out and Furina, I explain to you because Furina could go to a rare case, and this is going to be interesting for people to come here and say, a Furina in rare case well. And this to close the video I explain it to you, because it is very interesting. Furina its constellation. To your important talent, and the one you will always recommend crowning is going to be your ultimate in fact. I'll put it here because... very important, the strongest of the game in fact, and in addition you have crowned your ulti because more loads of Algarabah for the heating bonus and for the damage inflicted that easy, but your elementary ability is one of those of the abilities that most damage. Outside the field has the game above Yelan if you have Furina C2 and weapon, that is to say if you notice the constellations. Stronger than here we have Yelan and Xiangling as the strongest sub-DPS of the game, that is worth crowning your ulti. And Furina its elemental makes and better that function of Yelan and Xiangling as sub-DPS Furina can make Xiangling out of the vaporizing field in equipment where there is excess of pyro, or it can vaporize the Furina itself or be simply a damage equal. That Yelan, a neutral hydro damage that goes hitting so that another character like Gammon then vaporizes the elemental Furina. If you are C2 in weapon, it is also indispensable to crown it, i.e. Furina. 110-10 with C2 and weapon would be canon, but Furina, if you do not have C2 and weapon and damage, your elemental is not so powerful, at least 16-10 in your ulti. If it would be indispensable with which it could, indispensable with which it could in talents god here above Bennett could go in just one, even though he would actually go here, or he could go in rare cases really. Although I think that if I'm going to put it here just a little bit more, this is the list of talents with the most powerful talents of Genshin. Those characters I wouldn't recommend crowning unless you have a lot of affection and want to take them to heaven, but don't. I explain it, only one I think is very clear, and it is interesting specifically this tier, which is quite long, double crown as. You're looking around because the characters who really take advantage of it a lot better if I do with chicks would go here to remember triple crown that will bring to all the damage of the character here are the characters that are most worth the triple crown. Today in the game, Hudao is the one that most today for the contribution of the talents all equally and the best talents of Genshin Impact to this day are the normals of Alekino, the normals of New Billet for its damage like carries the ulti of Dai, Xiangling the ulti of Yellen, the ulti of Bennett, and the elemental the elemental according to whether this dosi arms the ulti always. From Fiorina for the damage inflicted on the entire team, the rest around here Moalani, because he would surely put it around here with his attacker. Normal and Quinnish would say that maybe here in double with Tignari basically, because it would play 110-10 Tignari plays 10-8-10. He would play 110-10 surely, and if he wants to get a lot of damage, so little more. You are beating of the best talents and more. Genshin Impact's most important last disclaimer, anyone who likes Ayaka or Raiden and such Habeki Raiden in other goals. They could have come here, Raiden has explained before I had put it here, but I'm going to put it here because of the issue of the issue. That's more dependent than if C3 weapon Sarachinks Bennett takes Kazuha for hypercarry such that it's not so important and Ayaka. If it were Inazuma's frozen goal, and the Suma principle where you could play Ayaka would go here but day by day. Today, you can't play Frozen, you can't play Ayaka Permafrost, so Ayaka will go down here. I ought to have a very good day, is not mine neither, and thanks for supporting the video. You know to leave a good ulti of 10. Those who have reached the end, especially thank you so much for all of the affection and support for the exhibition of the channel. Because with this you bring a lot for you is free, and for the channel is a brutality that can be recommended for all. The interaction that you read with the likes and with the comments, and now as I said little bit more careful much to have very good.